This is our mobilization for the thoracic spine to improve the hang or internal rotation of the shoulder. What we're going to do is I have a single lacrosse ball or similar ball, and then potentially I need a little bit more weight on my chest, which will help. What we're going to do is we're going to start with this ball mid-thoracic, or more importantly, mid-scapula. So what I'm looking at is if I divide that scapula in half and put that ball, move this to the other side, move that scapula, divide that scapula in half. I'm on the lower half, and I'm between the scapula and the spine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip my hand up under my back into this position. So what I'm doing is working on this internal rotation shape or hang shape. And then what I'm able to do here is scrub back and forth, going from angle of the rib, or excuse me, from the thoracic spine itself, or the spine itself, all the way out to the scapula, and I can wobble back and forth. But the magic here is to try to take some breaths and try to improve how much motion is happening. So as we're shooting for 3 minutes aside here, I'm going to try to get 3 or 4 ribs. So I'm going to take a big breath in. I'm going to contract into that segment by pushing my hand into the ground or into my back, shove my elbow into the ground, contract that system. I'm going to exhale now for a long time, try to lengthen that exhale. As I lengthen, I'm going to soften, and I'm going to get some motion into that mid-back, especially between that scapula and the T-spine there. So if I need it, again, I can add a little bit more weight through the chest, and that brings us up. So this is a 20-pound ball, but that brings that right up. So any ball over here or dish a load. So I'm just going to move down a notch, which is about 1 rib. Again, I can scrub side to side. I can even load this up by just turning onto the elbow. Again, I'll stop, take a breath here, try to power inflate. I'll contract and hold for 4 seconds, and then I'm going to see how much air I can get out and let my body melt around the ball, let that tissue soften, and then I'm going to take 2 breaths to try to remobilize that joint there. Using that point of the ball to tell me where I am and use it to sort of guide my proprioceptive awareness there. And then again, now I'm near the bottom of the scap. You can see I'm just hanging at the bottom inferior pole of the scapula there, winding that hand up as far as I feel comfortable. I can just mobilize side to side. Pinning a ball over just helps me get a little bit more weight through the ribs, work on my breath here. And if it feels like I can't take a full breath, don't do anything else. Just stay here for a second and take a second breath. Big breath in. Contract into the ball, hold, 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 relax. Explore the boundaries of that breath, moving back and forth a little bit, and then again, finish a couple more breaths here. And what's amazing about this intervention is that we're managing to spend a whole bunch of time in this position working on improving this internal rotation. So not only are we mobilizing the tissues and rib system, joint system of the spine here in this shape. Again, middle of the back, middle of the scapula. What we see is that inferior ribs there, or the ribs on the bottom half, tend to block a lot of the depression of the scapula. So we're getting that motion happening. So when I internally rotate or go to extension, I can easily drop this scapula down. So somewhere between scapula and spine, take a big breath. Actively become strong, push that arm, make those tissues contract around the ball. Exhale, soften up. And then spend a couple seconds here exploring the depth of your breathing. So you can soften around it. And the idea here is try to use that breathing to move those ribs back and forth a little bit. I'll move down a notch, taking that big breath here. Trying to block the ball out. I'll contract as hard as I can, being rigid as hard as I can, and then softening to return. See if I can get to the bottom of that breathing. Again, I'm not using the ball here, but feel free to use it. And then take a couple breaths to make sure you have full control of that. And some of this, what we're doing with this breathing is to just try to remind our brains we have to have control over this, and that we don't want to spend time, hey, I'm mobilizing, but I'm not breathing. And not breathing is the same thing as tensing. So At very least, keep that engine idling a little bit. We'll drop down to the last rib. And in this position now, you can see it's literally and physically at the bottom of the scapula here. And anywhere between that scapula and the spine is going to be fair game. But I'm going to sneak up against the scapula a little bit, take a big breath. I can even rotate on that arm, contract, and that's going to force that scapula to depress, putting that awareness into that musculature in position. Relax and exhale. So that 4-second contraction is a big end range isometric. So again, as I was saying earlier, that one of the magic here is not only we're addressing the soft tissue back here, the serratus posterior superior, we're getting the rhomboids, we're getting some of the lats, but we're also just spending a whole lot of time in this position of emphasis, restoring this internal rotation. So last big breath, contract as hard as you can, build some tension, exhale, sink and soften, big breath in and big breath out, and guess what? That's an easy time travel where you've spent 3 minutes aside restoring and improving your body's ability to internally rotate the shoulders.